compliments.
Most men don't know how to take compliments. You just take these compliments, you wonderful man. Hello, world. It's your girl, Tamika Harper, and we're at session 3 of Warrior Workshop Wednesday of Tamika Festival 12, Elevation Nation, rising to our higher selves. And I am so excited for this next professor, panelist, amazing expert that I know. His name is Michael Harriot. He is not only a poet and a political pundit and a writer, and not just a writer, he is now going to be an author of 2 books you got coming up, and now we're going to hear about all the things that Michael got going on. But he's here to facilitate to you how to transcend your poetry, transcend your writing into other avenues and fields and opportunities. How you doing, Mike?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, all kind of transformers and shit trying to shut us down. And, yeah, you know, the devil is a lie. You see me
Yeah.
right up, demon. You know what I'm saying? You try, but you will fail. Because we have purpose and we have mission and we are blessed. And I'm so grateful that you're going to share your knowledge with us today. I'm going to hand it right over to you, and I'll be asking you some more questions at the end, and also questions that may be on YouTube. So if you have questions out there, please just put them in the comments and I'll make sure that he gets them. So off to you, Michael.
Yeah, I was wondering how that was going to work, like how people were going to ask questions. So basically what I was going to talk about today is like, I have been, I don't know, fortunate enough, blessed enough to have been able to take my writing from not just poetry, but to TV, to film, to journalism, to, I've done like almost every medium that exists. I've not only just, I've been fortunate enough not to have just done it, but like have people who sought me out to do it. And so what I wanted to talk about today was kind of like taking what you use in poetry and using it to, to ascend or to elevate yourself to other platforms. Because I always believe that, like, first of all, I don't think that writing is an art. I think that poetry is an art, right? But writing is a skill, and you develop it and you can use it to create art. And that's why, that's twofold, right? Because some people think just because they like poetry, they can be good at poetry. And I believe that you have to develop that skill, not just the writing, but the performance. And so it's a skill that you have to develop. It's kind of like people who can draw, who can innately draw anything they see. Some of those people become, I don't know, engineers who draw up plans for bridges. That's not art. Some of those people can use it to create something that they can see in their head. And that's art, right? So, but to become a great artist, you also have to develop your skills as a person who draws. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think that first of all, when you get into different avenues or different formats, you realize like most people can't write, right? The ability to write and the ability to move people with your writing is a talent that people are seeking out. And if you know how to present it, and if you know how to translate that into other formats, then you can make yourself valuable in whatever avenue you choose to use it, right? So first, I have no idea on how to share a screen, right? But I guess somebody can, maybe Tamika, you know how to share a screen?
At the bottom next to chat, it says share screen.
Okay. I want to use, okay. This is what I want to use. Not this screen. Not this screen. But this screen, right? So I've been fortunate enough to work with BET writing. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see it, but we don't hear anything.
Oh, you don't hear anything?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I can't figure out. But so this was an example. I was going to use that as an example of a monologue that I had done for BET. I was lucky enough to write for 2 specials for BET. I was the sole writer on both of the specials, and they were the last one was about the student financial aid crisis, and the one before that was about just using our vote. So can you guys see me now, or is it still on the screen?
Yeah, we see you and we see her.
Okay, so I wish I could share it to you, but what I was trying to get at is like the monologue. Both of those opened with monologues that was basically telling about the issue that we were working on, and it was basically a poem. It's like we want the monologue to be 2 minutes. So you write a 2-minute poem and you include what you want to say. But because I am a poet, first of all, I know, and I've slammed and I've, performed, like, I've been in venues where they say, okay, you got 5 minutes, or okay, you got 7 minutes. So one, you use your skills and just knowing how long something that you write will take when someone says it. And two, you have that skill of, taking a subject and making it poetic and at the same time informational. And I think that's a valuable skill that people are looking for. And I know they're looking for it because, like, I'm literally looking at an email now. It's from somebody who's asking me to do stuff like that. And the things that you use in poetry, like even rhyme and meter, if you're talking about a monologue, it makes when people rhyme in a monologue, when people use alliteration in a monologue, when you know how to tell. Like there was a part in that monologue where I wrote it as a poet, imagining standing on stage, and so when she performed it and it was beautiful, like the way she did it. But I was like, nah, you should pause here. And there was a part that says, we built this country for free. And she would say, we built this country for free. And I was like, nah, I want you to say, we built this country for free. And that pause, as a poet, I know the implications and how that pause works because I've been on stages. And that's a valuable thing that you can translate into television because you have not only the ability to write it down, but it's one of the few kind of genres in writing where we've seen people and we know how to perform the things that we write, and we know how we want it to sound in our head. That's valuable, right? And even in journalism, right? If you've kind of watched any kind of poetry, or if you write poetry, there's a thing in poetry called the turn, where you start talking about a subject, and then you turn that subject into the thing that your poem is actually about. I do that all the time in journalism, right? And people think, oh man, I don't understand how you do it. Ain't shit, but like every poet in the world does it, right? They think it's something special because I'm in the world of journalism, but it's just an old poetry trick, right? So like today, I was literally right before this session, I was writing a piece about how Republicans are trying to suppress Black voters by using coronavirus to say, hey, we don't want y'all to go to the polls, right? We want to stop mail-in ballots, and we want to do all of that, all of the stuff that we can to stop you from using your right to vote. So I frame that as it's basically the same thing that con artists, that magicians, that thieves do, right? They always make you turn your head for a minute. Like we turning our head at coronavirus and they still in our vote. That's how they pick your pocket. That's how they make the card disappear. That's how thieves break into your house. They call the police and report a robbery across town, and then they break into your house, right? it's the same trick, but that metaphor is really just an old poetry trick, right? But people think it's unique just because I come in from a world where, like, if I said that to a poet, like, poet be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But to people outside of poetry and journalism, they think, well, damn, how do you think of that? We already have the skills to do all of these other professions. We know how to translate it. We know how to catch the audience. We know how to use the words to evoke emotion. And we already have all of that in our training. And so what you have to do is use that skill, that writing skill, and apply it to all different kinds of mediums, right? I did it, like, I know a lot of poets have
Mike,
yeah.
unshare the screen. And if you're gonna share it, you're gonna go ahead and share it. You can, our technical person just told us that you could share it through the computer, your computer's audio, and see if that worked. But you know, if you're not, then you can just put it back on you.
Okay. I'm gonna put it back on me. I don't know how the hell I do that. Hold on.
Just stop sharing the screen.
Oh. And what the hell?
We all learning this together. So that is the blessing of this situation. I wouldn't even attempt to know about all this or any of this. So it must be for our betterment.
Okay. Okay, I see. Stop share. That's what I was just supposed to hit. Stop share, huh?
Uh-huh.
That'll just stop sharing it. Okay. So yeah, but those skills, man, like the stuff that we have, the stuff that we take for granted that we use in poetry are valuable commodities everywhere else. Again, man, most people, even like the best, there are people who you see on TV and people who you call writers, but they're not skilled at using like that, translating, first of all, an emotion. That is a valuable thing, translating an emotion to something that is visceral, something that you can touch and hear and feel and taste. We do that all the time, right? But it is something that is hard to find in most other mediums. So when people like find out you can do it, it's almost like a magic trick. They really look at it like that, right? They look at it like I had somebody, like this is like if I don't want to call the name, but it's somebody who everybody watching this would know, right? And they're giving a graduation speech, and they called me a couple of days ago and said, man, I got what I want to say, but I want you to look at it and just punch it up. And like that evening, I sent it back to them and they were like, how do you do that? Bro, I've been in poetry venues. I've been in places where like, I need another poem to go on this stage, or which poem am I going to use? Or sometimes you steal from one poem that you already created. You know, as poets, y'all have created stuff that you really kind of never share on stage, you never use. All of those tools are valuable, man. And it's not just like TV, and it's not just journalism. It is the ability to like translate a concept to something that is real, right? Like I remember when like there was a article that I wrote that kind of doomed Pete Buttigieg's campaign when he was running for president, and people say, well, like you doomed his campaign. But what it really was, right, was I simply told the story about me, like, and the people I knew growing up around, like I grew up around in a neighborhood where a lot of my homeboys were drug dealers. And when I went to college, and my sister and I went to the same college, right? So a bunch of dope boys took what we used to call it, where I'm from in South Carolina, a Piggly Wiggly bag. They took a Piggly Wiggly bag and just filled it with money, right? And it was like $7,000, like almost $8,000. And I kept it in my dishwasher when I was in college, right? And so instead of just starting off like Pete Buttigieg be lying when he talks about Black people don't have role models, I started it out with $7,299, whatever the amount was. That's how much money I had in the bag. And all of those people who put that money in that bag, they were pulling for me, right? And then I went on to explain how, like, first of all, this shit is so dumb to say that Black people don't have role models when every Black person got somebody who went to college in their family or just know somebody. Like everybody, if one Black person in the neighborhood is a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer, every Black person in that neighborhood knows them. So, and you know, Black women are the most educated demographic in America. People don't know that, but that is true. But you can cite all of those statistics and still people won't relate to it unless you tie it together with something personal. And we do that all the time in poetry, right? Like you can write a poem with a line of statistics about like sexual assault, but it's more powerful if you tell the story about when you experienced that or when you experienced your mother's dying or like those, like injecting humanity into something that is pretty much a dry topic, something just like we watched a couple minutes ago that you weren't able to hear about student loan debt or about voting. People value that and you can use that. That's why I really think that poets should treat everything that they write as a poem. Like, you know, there are certain elements that you have to include in it. If you're writing a piece of journalism, you might have to include quotes from an interview. If you're writing for a TV show, you know, you like, for instance, if you're writing for comedy, they want you usually to have a punchline some people say 30 seconds, some people say 45 seconds. But if it's going to be funny, you have to have a frequency of jokes. Same way we do with punchlines. Like, you want to say something slick and smart every few lines in your poem just to keep people attention, because otherwise they'll drift off. All of those skills ain't shit for poetry. And that's why I approach everything as, oh, it ain't nothing. I guess I got to write this 3-minute poem that they call a monologue. I got to write this 1,000 word poem that they call a piece about Democratic voters. I got to write a joke or a scene for a television show, and it's got to have a joke every 35 seconds. And the stuff that you find funny, they find hilarious because you've heard all the jokes. You've been in a million places with a million stages. So you know how to translate a joke immediately. You know that a joke ain't really nothing but emotion, wit, and brevity. All jokes should be smart. That's one thing I've learned about poetry. The shorter the joke is, the shorter the punchline, the funnier it is. That's one thing I've learned. And you can translate that into any other genre that requires writing, even if it is just a legal brief, if you're writing for a lawyer. I'll give you, here's a good example, right? Like, this is a job that most people have no idea exists, right? Almost all of the TV shows, the reality shows you watch have writers, right? Like, even if it's supposed to be real. Like, if you watch something like for instance, Top Chef, right? You say, well, they just doing shit but cooking or, you know, but every time they come back from a break and right before they go to a break, they'll say, well, this challenge was about the so-and-so and so-and-so. And then they'll say, when we come back, we'll see what this person has done or something like that, right? They pay people to do that. Now they might give you a whole season, 10 episodes, and you can write that shit because it ain't really nothing but 15-second drops a piece. You can write that shit in a day. But most people can't write. So they're just looking for somebody who literally can put together a sentence and make it sound decent. And they choose, a lot of times, you can eke your way in a door whatever format you ever find, whatever genre you ever can squeeze your way in the door in, let them know that you can write. I'm telling you, you will become more valuable than anybody else, more valuable than people who might be ranked higher than you. I've done it for radio. Everybody needs writers. Even when you see like a reality show like The Real Housewives, right? When they have those breaks, or when they say on the next episode, or when, a lot of times when they show those stand-ups after they filmed everything, and the person who's in the scene is telling you, this is what happened. I can't believe she came at me like that. Bruh, somebody wrote that. I'm telling you. I know it because I have written them. Almost all of those, what they call one-on-ones, when they're standing in front of the camera and the scene is already happened, but they're describing what happens in the scene. That's the scene when they're made up and they got their makeup perfect and they're looking right at the camera. Somebody wrote that. Now, it really is that person's thoughts and ideas, but they tell it to a writer, and a writer condenses it because they will ramble on for hours, or for minutes. Yeah.
Right. Do it again. How they be doing it?
Man, I'm not messing with you. I know he didn't come in here with her. You know how they do. You know. I can't believe Shaniqua told my secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, and it's not that those people don't know how to say it, right? But when the editors are putting together the show, the people who are sitting in front of the camera don't know what's coming before then, what's coming after then, how the show is edited. So they just they just say, how did you feel about that scene? And then the writer jots down. It might not be anything but bullet points. They put it in the teleprompter. The person is looking at the teleprompter and basically reading a summarized version of what they said they felt about that scene. And they use writers. And if you could be somebody who's holding the camera, but if they find out you could write, they'll say, hey, write this scene for me, or jot this down, and that makes you more valuable than the other person who's holding the other camera. That makes you more valuable than the sound guy. Most people who write for television started out doing something else on a set, because if you can write, all you got to do is get on a television set or a movie set. And when they find out, you gold, man. I'm telling you, this is a skill that most people don't have. And then being a poet, it even gives you a leg up over most writers, because there are journalists who do this. There are, novelists who do this. Somebody might write a book about something, but they can't write the script because they don't, like, when you read words on paper, it doesn't sound like how it will sound coming out of somebody's mouth. Like, I was having a conversation with somebody today, and I was telling them, like, these two words can't be together, because it's hard to go from like an L sound to an R sound, right? I know that because I've performed my poetry, and you can't go from something like a level later reveals, or something like that. It's hard to say for most people. So to be safe, some things as a poet, you take for granted. A lot you've stored, believe me, if you are a poet who does this frequently, you have a lot of knowledge stored up in your head about how to put words together, how to make things breathe, how to convey emotion that you take for granted, right? You don't even know you do it. But it is a value, and it is a commodity that you can sell and you can capitalize off of. And that's why I don't call myself a poet. I call myself a writer. And when I write poetry, I'm writing poetry. And when I'm writing everything else, I'm using some of the skills that I use when I write poetry to do those other things. Now, when you write poetry, sometimes I'm using my skills that I learned as a journalist, right? Like, there's certain facts that I learned that I can put into poetry. Or when I'm writing for a television show, you can use things that you've learned as a journalist. But at the root of it all is this skill that we all have that translates to every other medium where people speak words out loud. Anyone, whether it is music. I know a lot of poets out there are rappers there's a lot of poets who could blow away most of the people in hip hop that we think are talented, right? They sometimes they need not ghost writers per se, but you can punch up a lot of hip hop artist stars with alliteration, with metaphors, with you can make stuff brief. We all edit our poems. You can edit a hip hop song. You can edit a script. All of that, man. All of that. Like if somebody like if you've ever slammed before, you only have 3 minutes. You might have a 4-minute poem, and you're like, I need to cut this down, and I need to cut it down to 3 minutes. But I don't want to lose the meaning. There are people who look to do the same thing in TV, in film. Sometimes they have to cut a scene, so they have to rewrite the previous scene to include concepts that are in the scene that they're cutting. We do that all the time, y'all. I'm telling you. And like, I don't want to give business advice, but I think it's important to, everywhere you go, no matter if you're working at McDonald's or you might be answering the phone at a law firm, or you might be working at on a movie set. One, always let them know kind of low key that, yeah, I do poetry, and let them know that you write. Because I'm telling you, they're going to tap you on the shoulder one day and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And a lot of times, especially in Hollywood, man, because it's a lot of pretty motherfuckers. There are a lot of people who can sing. There are a lot of people with big booties, but a lot of them don't know how to write. And so, like, I know my time is going up, and I want to give TAMIKA some time to like ask questions or ask me where I might have missed something and fill in a gap. So I'm gonna turn it over to her so she can ask whatever question she wants to ask.
Well, I mean, first off, thank you for that wealth of knowledge you shared with us. The thing about our craft, sometimes you got crabs who don't share resources, information. Just, I always want to save people steps. You know what I'm saying? If your journey can be easier than mine, I want that for you, especially when I see you putting in the work and you're genuine. So, and I appreciate you for not holding it to yourself. One of my questions is, how do we make ourselves available to the opportunity? How to get into those rooms?
Well, so a lot of times, like most of the time, right, you can present yourself, like sometimes, like I said, you got to get in the room, first of all. So sometimes you got to be a bully. Now, like, here is the thing that I've always done, right? And we know it as poets. This is another craft we have, right? We will make a way. So when you want to get in a room, the easiest way to get in a room is to prove that you can do the shit already, right? Like the way I got my full-time job at the Root was not by submitting shit to the Root. Like I started my own blog and started writing myself. And then I committed to writing every day, because here's another thing, right? That is the difference between being a professional writer and somebody who writes is you got to do it on command every day, right? There's a difference. Like, you can't wait for inspiration. So I committed, because people who hire writers, a lot of times it's not how good of a writer you are. It's, can you perform on cue? Will you be here every day to do it? So especially with the way the entertainment industry has been democratized, do it without anybody asking it. You might have to do it for free. Like, I'll give you an example, right? You know how me and Angela Rye hooked up? Like, she just hit me up on Twitter. That's it. Like, literally, she just hit me up on Twitter and said, hey, I'm doing this special for BET, man, and maybe we could do something together. Same, I mean, there's a bunch of like people at TV shows, almost, and so you put your craft out there. Whether, like, you don't wait for somebody to open the door, and sometimes you don't even have to kick in the door. Stand outside that motherfucker and start singing, and they'll open it, right? So, like, if you want to, like, I'm currently, I got to do this after this, like, doing my own web show. Like, it's YouTube is, you're watching this probably on YouTube. It exists. Why do you need to wait for somebody to write, to hire you to write, when you could just create your own thing on YouTube, or create your own thing, create your own podcast? You know, you can create your own, like, so really, people are going to, the way to get people to notice you, that you can do something, is to start doing this shit yourself, right? Because when people say, hey, this dude, the only way they can know that you write is to read or hear or see something that you've written. And you can't wait for anybody to ask you to write something. You just got to write it, and people will come, right? It's just like if you stick a minnow in a pond full of fish, somebody's going to bite your hook. Go ahead, Tamika, you got another question?
Yeah, I just, I had to unmute myself. You're right. I tell people all the time, if you good dope, go out there and give it, and they'll come back. And that's how I've sustained my whole career. I haven't had a manager since 2006, and they didn't do much before then other than collect their percentage, because I was doing all the work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like they created opportunities or anything. They just collected money off. Now, I will say, shout out to Mudu Multimedia. He was the one to submit me and all of my comrades here in Atlanta that we got on Def Poetry. But I find the same thing. You have the same ability that an agent do or a manager does, but at some point, because you are the talent, you need some type of representation to assist you on your shit. Now, I know you one of those people that, even though you got an agent, you still go over everything that comes to you. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I agree that you're right? So this is the thing that you have to know, right? Taking that story from yours about Mudu, right? So Mudu submitted you to Def Poetry Jam, right? Do you think Mudu would have submitted, like, if he had a relationship with, a show on HBO, do you think he was submitting people who didn't have enough talent to be on there because you was his friend or because he knew y'all was cool? Nah, because he's not going to jeopardize his career in that relationship to risk it on, like, somebody he cool with. So at the end of the day, you presenting yourself in all of the places, even one where Mudu saw you and saw how dope you were, you got yourself, and Mudu was the vessel, right? And so I think as far as it pertains to what you asked, right? When you put yourself out, I feel like I'm not a person who's gonna feel comfortable, like, haggling with somebody over money. Like, I can do it, but I'd rather have somebody who I trust and know is going to get me the best deal possible, right? Your talent is going to get you in the door. Now, you might need an agent to negotiate the best deal possible, right? Like, I didn't know that I could retain the rights to the name of my books until my agent told, oh, don't let them, if somebody wants to do a graphic novel, you want to retain those rights. Somebody wants to do a TV show, you want to retain those rights. So those are the things that you need agents for. An agent can't take a shitty artist and get them on a great show, right? You got to be dope. And if you're dope, a good agent can get you what your art is worth, right? But they're not going to even be able to get you jobs that you're not qualified for. They're going to get you things that are according to your level of talent, right? Because if you have a really powerful agent, they're not gonna risk that power for just a 10% fee on whatever you're doing or a relationship with you, right? Because that's how they got power. Because people inside the industry trust them to bring somebody who's adequate for the thing that they're seeking. And so, again, it all comes back to refining your art. I feel like I really believe that doing the work will get you to the places that you like. All you got to concentrate on is doing the work. Don't let nobody bulldoze you. Don't let nobody bullshit you out of your money. Don't let no one devalue your art or your self-worth. But if you work on your art, then you will be undeniable and you will be prepared for when that door cracks open.
We open, okay. You absolutely right. I think that people, think that there's a certain way it has to be done. And I love management. I love people who got representation that handle everything. But I know that you can do it yourself, and you need to have that presence and control of your own career. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have a question from YouTube from Sewing Survivor One. You started with the blog. What program, site, platform did you use, and how did you publicize it?
I started out with just regular WordPress, right? I went to I bought a blog from WordPress. I bought a domain name from GoDaddy. I bought a template for the blog from Envato, and I didn't really Again, I concentrated on writing and doing the work, right? So when I would write, I would, of course, you let your friends and your social media people on social media know, like, this is up. I would post it, and people who appreciate it would share it, right? That's one thing about the internet, right? It democratizes content, right? Like, if I write something on my personal blog and somebody writes something for the New York Times, people are going to share mine. People who like mine are going to share it before they share the one on the New York Times, right? It's because it's just words on a paper. Very few people now. I know, like, what some place like where I work now, right? It's like the biggest Black news site, right? So there are people who check that every day. So part of that audience is built in, but where where the bulk of that audience comes from originally is because people share what they like and people share what they read, right? And so if you write two things people like, they'll check for the third thing. And if you write five things people like, then they're going to start checking for you, right? So all you got to do, again, is concentrate on the work, and then the audience will come. Like, if you don't, you can stand on the street corner and sing and people going to come and listen, right? So don't never worry. Like, I've never really worried about, like, how am I going to get people to hear or read this thing? I concentrate on how can I make this thing dope. And if it's dope, people are going to come and listen and hear and read that thing.
That's real. She also wants to know, have you ever had your content stolen, and how do you protect yourself from it? Thank you, Sewing Survivor. Keep coming with the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people steal my content all the time. That is one thing, again, so every artist has different strengths, right? And like TAMIKA, and you will fight for your business shit, right? I am a content creator. Once I create the content, like, one of my weaknesses is that I really kind of don't give a fuck about it after it exists, right? Once I create it and put it out there, I kind of don't give a fuck. Like, so I have had a lot of things stolen that, like, but I know that I have the ability to continually create content so they can't steal all the shit that I do, right? And then the person who steal it, if they take credit for it, when they're going to be exposed when they can't do it again. So people steal my shit, and I kind of like, if I was vigilant about it, which I should be, I would chase the motherfuckers down and you know, turn them in on YouTube or turn them into the platform that they're sharing my stuff on. But I'm like, you know, like somebody who's stealing from you, that means they can't create that shit themselves. So I can go do another one of whatever they stole, right? And the few people that think that they did it, like they might not have read my stuff anyway, or if they did, they know I did that shit. So again, I focus on creating and then releasing it into the world. But I do think that it is important to to be able to take credit for your stuff. So I would advise anybody to not let people steal their shit. I just kind of don't care. And that's, again, a fallacy of mine.
Well, I would say to you, Sewing Survivor, trademark. Just like your agent told you, every facet of what you create can be taken and used, but you should get a piece of that. So I learned a couple of years ago, my poem, Niggods, not the poem, the word on the shirt went viral. A brother stole my shirt that I've been putting out, put his own niggard raggedy looking design on a shirt, just the words. And T.I. took a picture with these two ponds, and it went viral twice in the same weekend. And if I had the image of niggas that I had already put out on a shirt, trademark, I could have benefited from that, because it created a whole bunch of traffic to that brother who was claiming credit for my creation. And I had a conversation with that man before, but I had not trademarked it. Poets do not know that they should trademark. You just think about copywriting a poem. You got to trademark those ideas, because that is intellectual property.
Right. Like this right here, right? So TAMIKA, no, I've been selling this for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Now it's all over Netflix, right? But this is one of the things, like, I didn't sleep on. Like, I trademarked this.
Yes.
Right. So this is mine, right? And the only reason I did it, though, I'll be honest, is because my agent kept saying, hey, you need to trademark that. You need to trademark that. So I did, and it's mine. But it's on Netflix. And so, you know, when you trademark something, you can either just stop people from using it, or you can make them pay you for using the name, right? Mm-hmm. So I do agree with her that there are some things that, like, I wish I would have trademarked. Like, so, but again, a lot of times I'll just like move on. I'll give you another example, right? So in 2015, I wrote an article about white people coming to the cookout, which is what went viral, that inspired me to start my own blog. So that's where the phrase invited to the cookout originated. I wish I would have trademarked that back then, but it blew up so big that but it's out of my control now, right? But a lot of people, well, some places will acknowledge, like, oh yeah, that came from Michael Harriot's Caucasian Guide to Black Barbecues. So I would advise you, if you are diligent about those things, to trademark and protect yourself anytime, you know, you have the ability to, because here's a great example, right? So, you know, the person who created and started using the phrase Black Girl Magic does not own the trademark. Just think about how she just let that go and how much money somebody has made off that. Because if you use it in a TV ad, if you use it on the television show, you gotta pay for that. The person, because the trademark doesn't depend on who created it, right? Somebody can trademark somebody can read something that you wrote and take it and go get a trademark on it, and it belongs to them. And if you use it again, you violating their trademark.
That's absolutely right. Madonna, y'all, Madonna had to buy her name because when she came out, somebody took, even though Madonna is not like her natural name, it's an entity. They trademarked her name and she had to buy it back from them. And like it happens all the time. For those of you who are like, how do I do that? Most states got a lawyer for arts council or a Georgia, I know we have Georgia Lawyer for Arts. Damn near every state has that. Look into that, and for a small fee, they will do contractual things for you based off your income. So I want to share that because of what I went through with, I felt like I was raped, shawty. Like I was like, it kept going viral and it kept going, and it was real sad. And I don't want nobody else to go through that. And the girl with Black Girl Magic, oh my God, like it is so many entities that use that phrase. So that's what we're here for right now, to teach. And you like me, Michael, you be like, I don't care, I did it, I'll make some more, da 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 da. But no, God gave you the ability to be the curator of your gifts, and you should benefit off of them. That's for everybody. Rewap got a question for you. First off, So and Survivor 1 said, damn. And Rewap B says, I love your writing. Hey, Rewap. She says, I love your writing, Michael. Have you ever come in contact with any white people who respond to your articles on the route?
Yeah, all the time. Some people, like a lot of them, I guess I get a lot of emails and, stuff on social media that I'm racist and stuff like that. But in person, most white people who recognize me and come up with me, I guess they say they like it because I guess why would you come up to somebody who shit you hated? And so most of the time in person, the white people who read my stuff are usually nice. I've been in a poetry spot and, a white person was like, yeah, I love your stuff. Or, like sitting at somebody in the airport or something like that. But for the most part, I guess the people who you piss off by talking about race, most of the time they're pissed off because they don't like to talk about race. So they're not going to get in a racial conversation with you, right? Because a lot of times they don't be pissed off about you talking about white people. They just don't like people talking about race, period. They feel like you play in the race card. That's what it is an aversion to the conversation about the history of whiteness, right? And so any conversation about race, they don't want to have, right? And so they usually ain't gonna confront you because they don't want to have that conversation.
I was laughing because that's real. Because I've been not confronted though. Like people, I didn't think I could do niggods in anywhere but a black venue or just around black audiences. And then there I was on Broadway, exalting the black man. And at one point in the poem, I say "fuck you, cracker." So I never thought that I would even I wanted white people to hear it, but I didn't think that was where it was best suited. And you'd be surprised, that is the most popular poem from white people, as far as them telling me, especially white men, I love the poem because I never hear anyone speaking good about black men. And whether we realize it or not, a lot of our black men are heroes to a lot of white people, especially white men. Their favorite person is Prince, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they live. And we just look at the so-called racist and prejudiced people as a litmus for all white people. And really, they're more liberal, good white folk, as I like to say. And like you said, they cowards. They ain't gonna say nothing if they really got an issue. They really ain't.
And that's why I always said, like, as a poet, right? Like, I don't, like, if I got, a lot of people know me, like, I got a lot of what some people call angry Black poems, right? But I don't have a need to do those around Black people, right? Like for what? Like they know, everybody here feel the same way. If you're in a Black poetry spot, everybody there pretty much feels this, most of this has some of the same views, right? So I do those poems around white people, right? Because that's who needs to hear it. And it's the same thing with my writing, right? Like I could, when I eviscerate white supremacy and whiteness, I'm not doing it just so Black people can applaud. I'm saying it so white people will recognize those things in themselves and recognize the truth in them, right? Because I use a lot of data and statistics because I want you to realize, like, you can't argue with the fact that a Black person who commits a crime gets a 20% longer sentence than a white person who commits the same exact crime and has the same exact record, right? You can't argue with that, right? You could argue with somebody saying the criminal justice system is racist, and you'll be arguing all day. But when you tell them that white people's bails is 10% lower than Black people's bail, when you tell them that Black people and white people use drugs at the same rate, and when you erase marijuana, white people use actually more drugs than Black people, but we arrested at 3 times the rate. When you use data like that, they can't deny it, right? So plus I tend not to argue with people because a fact is a fact, no matter if you're willing to accept it or not. And so you can't argue facts with emotion. So if they feel bad about the things that I say, then they're upset with the facts, not the things that I said.
True. I say the same thing. You know, I'm a little bit, little less couth than you, Mike. So, you know, when I do certain pieces or people feel certain kind of ways, I'm like, that's you. That's not me. If you're the racist white lady who's jumping off the elevator or grabbing your purse, or you're the one that gathers your family when you're around Black people, I'm talking to you. I want you to flee. Those are demons in you. That's how I see it. You know, I've actually walked behind a family in New York because the little boy was looking at her. It was a family, mother and father and son. And the little boy was looking at me and I was like, hey, King. And she grabbed him like I was going to do something to him. And me and my Chinese homeboy, shout out to Bosia, followed them motherfuckers for 2 blocks. And I was just like, it's a shame that people let their fear interfere with their child's progression and put that fear. I was ridiculous. I get like that sometimes. I battle all the time. I just don't want it. If I see it, I'm going to get at it. And that's just what my poetry is too. So it's just a reflection of who I am in real life. And it's the same thing about you. We're not afraid to confront demons, and we do it through our art. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, and I feel like everybody can, no matter what the demon. Don't have to be racism or racist issues. Your lack of love for yourself, the mistreatment that you allow, the hate you spew. We have to also be a mirror to ourselves through our art, and through us looking at what we need to do, what we can do. It helps and heals others. Sewing Survivor One say, loving all this info. Thank you both for sharing your knowledge. You so welcome, sweetie. That's what we're here for. I think this is K-Love checking in with brother Mike, kind of like a guy who walked out at the beginning of My Mama's So Black thinking it was something that it wasn't. Yeah, they run out all the time when they hit dogs, holler, and they flee. You know what I'm saying?
So let me say, let me tell you about this, right? So it was in 2015 or 16, right? I was at the Individual World Poetry Slam. And for people who watching, who don't know what that is, right? So they have this series of nightly competitions. And at the end of the week, they kind of rank everybody, right? So it was the last night, and I come in first in every one of my individual competitions, right? So the last night, there was this lady, old white lady. She sat in the front audience and they picked her to be a judge. And I did this poem, and TAMIKA, I'm not gonna lie to you, she just threw her judging palette down and just walked out in a mess. It was called For White People Who Have to Listen to Black Poems at Poetry Slams. And she threw her palette down and walked out. And as soon as she got into the middle of the street, She busts her ass in the middle of the street, and
That
I
was
had to perform. I had to start over and choose they gave me the choice of performing the poem again or choosing a whole nother poem because they lost the judge.
I mean, I don't mind it. Like, I mean, I remember it's been many shows that I've had that not only, like I said, with white people, not only my use of the word nigga has enraged so many Black people, and I did not think that it would garner that reaction. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But and not just that, I've had Black people say to me, "I love your work, but I hate how you praise the ghetto."
Yeah, I get people. I have a whole poem about why I like the N word, and people like take issue with that all the time. But I have to tell them, first of all, right, like this is my voice, right? This is what I am saying, and this is the thing that I believe and a word that I have embraced. I can understand you taking issue with
520.
like with a white person using it, right? But you know what I mean when I'm saying this shit, right? You know what I mean when I say that's my nigga. Like, you know, it's not an insult coming out of my mouth. You know by the way it sounds, you know by my inflection that is not. And the other thing is, like, it's disingenuous in 2020 to think that a Black person saying that nigga gives white people to the leeway to say it because they know what that shit means.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
I
Right?
agree with you.
So like we can do away with all these perfunctory, stupid excuses. Because if a white person says the N-word, they know what they're doing. And when I say it, you know what I'm saying.
Yes. I equate it to something else in my life. You can feel how you want to feel about it. I don't allow anyone who's not Black, and really I love my brothers and sisters of the diaspora, but that's not your experience, Namdi. No, I'm just joking, not Namdi. Namdi is a born nigga. But you know, it don't even sound right for you to be saying. It's like me saying Kaffir. I'm not from South Africa. That's not my experience. So I don't like nobody who ain't a Black American saying it. Because even when my brothers from the island said, they say it with a bit of disdain. It's not the love that we have gained for it. And you know the familiarity of it by our generations in this country of using it for our just as a greeting. So I equated this, like, the world know me as Tamika. That's government. Everybody can call me Tamika. That's African American. Okay. Georgia Me is my stage name. No. That's Black. That's what I say. Tamika is Black. Georgia Me is African American. Now, if you don't know me, you better not call me Mimi. That's for my family. That's my nickname. That's nigga. If you not familiar in the right way, you can't say that. And I shut it down with everybody. I don't care about the women that fuck niggas. I don't care you was raised with them. I don't care if your whole experience has been around Black people. If you have love for the community, you know the context of that word and what it means coming out of your mouth. Just like bitch coming out of a man's mouth. No man can call me bitch. Only gay niggas and my homegirls can call me bitch. And that's just what it is. And some people don't allow it, period. But those are your parameters. And you have the right as a Black person to set the parameters. So
this is the analogy I use, right? So if somebody, to me, it's like somebody walking into your house and just going into your refrigerator. Like if it's a family member, like your first cousin can go in your refrigerator, right? But like no stranger can just because you in my house, go in my refrigerator. And that's the same way, like I have to, and the people who go into your refrigerator know that it's cool to go into your refrigerator. If they don't, then you got to tell them, hey, watch yourself when you go in my refrigerator. So that's how I feel about the N-word. Like, you know, when you're comfortable enough around somebody to go in the refrigerator.
Yes.
And you know when you should, whether you should or shouldn't say the N-word.
And I truly believe that. And I hate to have that conversation with people all the time. Oh my God. I can't stay this nigga right here. I just was shown something that just took me out. But I thank you, Mike, because you have spent almost a whole hour with us. I thank all the people on YouTube who have participated and asked questions. This was beyond informative. I appreciate your enthusiasm, your information, your genius. You know, you're one of my favorite writers. I'm so proud of you. You make us look good in so many ways. And me and you were just talking about voices we can trust, people who are within the sound of my voice. This is a man that you can trust, okay? We need voices we can trust that's for us, not bought by us. And, you know, Mike, where you from?
South Carolina, a little town. Well, I looked down because I had on a T-shirt earlier that said Hartsville is fuck. And so I thought I had it on. But yeah, I'm from a little town called Hartsville, South Carolina.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I know you represent the B-Ham too. So I'm like, yeah, you're a crack boy, you're a South crack boy. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Tell the people how they can donate to you, contact you, watch what you got going on. Tell them about the clapback.
Okay, so I have a show that's on YouTube and Facebook every Thursday called The Clapback. It is basically, it's a news show that takes deep dives into specific topics every week. And instead of talking about the news, we talk to the news. So you can watch that on Facebook and YouTube. You can catch me writing every day or almost every day at The Root, unless I have a day off. And all my social media is Michael Harriot, MICHAEL HARRIOT. Just one T, Michael Harriot. So that's all, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of it is the same. So you can usually find me writing about something somewhere. That's it.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you so much. I love you. And we've all enjoyed this session. Please share this with your networks people as you watch this video. A lot of valuable information. We wish you nothing but more huge, extreme success. And speaking for us, I just want to say thank you, Mike, for real.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to have your smart ass out here representing us in the best way. And you did your own shape up and everything during this pandemic?
Yeah. Oh, you know, I had a beard and I shaved it off because I couldn't it obstructed the mask. I had a big, thick, like nigga Santa Claus beard.
Well, you look good. I'm glad to see you looking clean and shaven. The rest of us around here look like the pandemic. So, you know, jail. Like we all just refusing services.
Gang.
But we appreciate you so much.
The good thing about it is everybody looking the same way though.
Yeah, that's the same thing I said. You see really what it is around here. Okay. Like I ain't seen it. It's been a selfie-less Instagram, boy. These hoes is hiding now.
Yeah, everybody's sharing pics. And then you look in the corner and say 5 years ago. Every day is Throwback Thursday now.
Not today, shouted. Not today. Well, I love you, and y'all, we got another session at 7 o'clock. So y'all come back, go get something to eat, go get your drink. We are all about our financial literacy with Thomas Tipton at 7 p.m. So we're going to take a break. We'll see y'all a little later. I love you. See you in a minute.
Peace.
Peace.